Hi everyone, I'm Pranita and welcome to my kitchen. Today we are gonna be learning how to make fried pasta, that is fried tortellini. You can use ravioli for this recipe as well. So let's get started. These are the ingredients you're going to need for this recipe. I have 1 cup of Japanese style breadcrumbs, that is panko breadcrumbs, and to that I have mixed a bunch of spices. This is because this is gonna be the exterior layer of the pasta, so we want it to be as flavorful as possible. So I've added about 1/4 teaspoon of each of these spices, that is curry powder, ground mustard, Italian seasoning, garlic powder and black pepper, and also 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Curry powder especially because it seemed like it's a nice fine powder and it's such a blend of powders. It gave such a complex and a fantastic flavor to the dish, so I absolutely fell in love when I added the curry powder, and this goes there. I also have this 1 cup of tortellini cooked. This is 3 cheese tortellini actually, and there is also chicken. So this is a store-bought tortellini. This is leftover tortellini. I already cooked it in the morning, and now I'm actually preparing it as a nice appetizer because I had some leftover, and this recipe is actually great for leftover tortellini. But if you don't have any leftovers, make sure that you cook them ahead of time and let them cool down a little bit, and for them to not to stick to each other, I've added a little bit of olive oil. Remember, whenever we cook pasta, we add salt to the water. So if you add too much salt to the breading, what happens is, because it becomes too salty, because the pasta already has salt and inside there is cheese, so that adds extra salt, so you don't want to make it too salty. So just to not to do that. And for the assembly line, there is a process to bread the pasta. That is, first it goes into the flour, then there will be egg, and then there will be breadcrumbs. How we are gonna do that, we're gonna see it next. I have some canola oil heating up here, so let's go ahead and actually bread the pasta, and you want to let the pasta sit for about 5 to 10 minutes before you start frying it. So what we are gonna do is, even before thinking of heating it up, I'm gonna go ahead and start breading the pasta. So here I have some rice flour, to which I've added a pinch of salt and pinch of black pepper, and that's the black specks you see in there. And then there is egg with a teaspoon of water, which I am gonna beat it nicely until it's well mixed. And I'm using a fork here because once I put the tortellini into the egg, I'm gonna transfer it with the help of a fork, because if you touch it with your hand and when you touch the breading, it actually coats your finger. So and the breadcrumbs are nicely mixed as well. I'm gonna just give it a stir just in case, and I have a plate that I can rest the pasta on. So we're gonna go with the flour and make sure that it coats each and every part of the pasta into the egg with the fork. We're just gonna dip it nicely, make sure that it gets into each and every nook and cranny. You can touch a little bit, I guess. And then into the breadcrumbs. Now once it goes into the breadcrumbs, what you can do is just cover it up totally with the breadcrumbs, pat it right, and toss it out again and pat it nicely, and voila. You can also use all-purpose flour instead of rice flour. The reason that I am making this with the leftover pasta or not freshly cooked pasta is because the pasta becomes very slippery right after it's cooked. It's very starchy and it's very hard to handle. So I, just in case not to create any big pockets of moisture, and I don't want the pasta to burst onto when it's frying, so that's why. And so here is the tortellini all breaded and ready to go. One more thing, after you're done breading, since we have used raw egg, unless you are doing something immediately with breading, you wanna go ahead and use it up, or otherwise it's better to toss it out. And this has been resting for the last 5 minutes now, and I know the order that I went is from this way, and I'm gonna add to the oil. And here I have some canola oil in a stainless steel frying pan coming to a nice temperature, about 300 to 320. Okay, I just checked the temperature of the oil and it's at 300 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm gonna go ahead and test it with one tortellini. That's a nice sizzle. The one problem with the breading and frying is that what happens is the breading falls out a little bit and it starts burning and it settles at the bottom. So I would say if you are trying to fry something that is breaded like this, you want to wait until the end, and you want to do that at the end. Let me get a spatula for myself so that I can turn this. If you are a beginner in breading and things like this, I would say this is a foolproof recipe, because there is nothing that you are waiting for it to finish cooking. So I'm gonna increase the heat a little bit to keep the temperature going. And since I have rested this tortellini, what happens is that the breading sticks to it nicely instead of just falling off. And the panko breadcrumbs, oh, they are so crispy and they are so foolproof, crispy type of breadcrumbs. And if you want to keep the breadcrumbs fresh for a long time, and if you don't want them to turn stale, you can pop them in the freezer. Just they come in a nice handy package, so you can just go ahead and pop it in the freezer. You see that colorization, that's what you want. And you know, when they are cooking properly, they kind of plump up a little bit. None of the pasta bursted till now, but you know, just to be make sure, whenever something is stuffed, you want to stand a little bit back, and just make sure that you turn it few times. Don't let it sit on one side. It just what happens is that the breadcrumbs that are touching the bottom kind of start picking up the color, whereas the sides doesn't. So you want to make sure that you're turning it few times as gently as possible. You don't want to go vigorously whisking it. So this is gonna take another 30 seconds or so to get done, and we are ready to serve them. So here is the tortellini ready to be served. As you can see that the tortellini is completely covered in the breading, and I mentioned that we are just trying to get a nice crisp on these breadcrumbs and the outer layer, and I want to show you guys how crispy it is, if you can hear. And as you can see, the breading doesn't slide off of the pasta from this side to this side. It's coated perfectly and it adds a great crunch. You know, I am trying to eat healthy nowadays, and this is not definitely a definition of healthy, but when I want to indulge in dishes like this, what I do is throw in a fantastic salad with it so that I can make it into a slightly healthy meal. So here is the fried tortellini ready to be served. As you can see, it's very easy and it's very fun to serve as an appetizer, because it's just gonna take your appetizing serving. This is very fun appetizer to serve. I've been eating this and I cannot wait to dig into this. This is one of my favorite dishes recently, and that's yummy. If you are planning on taking these to somebody else's potluck, or if you're going somewhere and taking this, you want to let them cool down completely before you pack them, so that all the moisture comes out, and the breadcrumbs can take the moisture to a little extent but not a lot. So if you are gonna pack them immediately, they are gonna become soggy. You can fry them once more again slowly, but it's gonna absorb more oil.